Thanks again, everyone, for being here. My name is Michael, as most of you know, and Anne and I, who's also on screen here, started Polestar Gardens, educational nonprofit, 23 years ago now, amazingly. And you probably know the story, but we were in the Big Island for a good while there, and then lost our facility there, and started a nationwide search for a new campus. To house our educational and community building activities. And we ended up in Fort Collins. We looked all over the place, East Coast, Arizona, Northwest. We had many possibilities, but this one in Fort Collins really was compelling to us because it held all the potential that we have dreamed of for Polestar from the beginning. Today's meeting is just a chance for people who haven't tuned in to Polestar much yet and would like to meet us, say hello, and talk a little bit about the vision and ask questions. Very informal. We'll start with just showing the video that's on the website. Probably you've seen it, but here's looking at again. And then we'll show you some other videos that sort of flesh out the vision and what we're trying to accomplish with our new community and campus, Polestar Village. So Terry, who is the hostess with the mostest.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael, and I am co-founder of Polestar Gardens, an educational nonprofit my wife Anne and I started in the year 2000. Our essential goal in creating Polestar is to harness the power of intentional community for the physical, mental, and spiritual well-being of students of all ages. We define our core values as spirit, community, and lifelong learning. And our goal is to create a conscious community environment that supports these values. Most of our early years were spent on the Big Island of Hawaii, building a community, yoga retreat, and organic farm on 20 acres that became an ideal campus for our vision. We had 15 glorious years there, but in the 2018 volcano eruption, it decimated our property. Though the lava barely touched our northern border, our best buildings burned to the ground, and it marked a huge change in the direction of Polestar. Though we could have rebuilt there, what we really wanted was to make this lifestyle more accessible to more people. We wanted a less remote environment and one that would be more practical for meeting the needs of everyday life. After looking far and wide for several years, we have ended up with a project we absolutely love in Fort Collins, Colorado. And now I will hand off to Vina, and she can share more with you about the vision of life we have there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vina. I first visited Polestar in Hawaii about 8 years ago and have been an active part of the community ever since. Polestar's values and the way they were held with so much joy, inclusivity, and grace resonated deeply with me. And so when the opportunity came, my 6-year-old and I packed up everything and moved out here to Fort Collins. This is an aerial shot of the land, and we consider the location ideal in many respects. It's only 3 miles to Old Town, 1.5 miles to Colorado State University, and just a half mile from shopping needs and medical support. We are nestled right up against the Front Range of the Rockies with hundreds of beautiful miles of hiking and biking trails with Horsetooth Reservoir just over the hill. This site plan shows all the important features of community life, all of which are easily accessed on foot. With sustainably built, privately and collaboratively owned single-family homes, townhomes, condos, microhomes, apartments, and more, we have opportunities for a wide diversity of lifestyle and budget. There's also a large village green and garden, common areas for cooking, dining, and gathering, sacred space for daily yoga and meditation, elder housing, play areas and open space, 2 pickleball courts, and a network of pathways and trails. Our elder housing is conceived as a wellness center and is combined with the preschool to benefit all ages. Polestar's founding members have been living in, leading, and building communities for almost 5 decades. Our team of community builders includes expertise in meditation and yoga, farming and permaculture, education, sustainability, engineering, architecture, construction, finance, marketing, legal, and more. To learn more, you can visit our website and sign up for our newsletter or request information about this unique investment opportunity. Thank you for your interest, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Okay.
And you can
Well,
to ask questions, you can raise your hand, or you can put questions in the chat if you like throughout the presentation.
and we'll just keep going looking at other things, but feel free to interrupt us. And any questions about anything. So this is your chance. I would say let's look at the, how about, because we rarely get to them, how about the aerial videos?
The drone shots.
Yeah, that might be fun for people to see.
So yeah, so I have to go out of here. Hold on.
Oh, we could do that first. It only takes a minute. Why don't you go ahead and run that?
So
So,
yeah, most people
um,
have this anyway because they haven't been on. So okay, you want me to start it?
sure.
Let's explain what it is.
Okay, so stop for a moment. So, if you've looked at our site plan at all, you'll see that there's sort of a village center with a garden, where all the hub of activity is, and this is and it also has housing, of course, a community center. Terry, why don't you go ahead and do the cursor so we can
Oh,
no,
oh,
just
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Start on the left. We'll just go around. You're seeing just a little edge of the temple there sticking out at bottom left. Then we have our community center going around to the right. Then we have 3 apartment buildings. And then we have another little single family dwelling there. And that we're discussing this in our later meeting today, that may end up functioning as our short-term common area. You know, our community center is a large and expensive building, and in the early going, we won't really need it. So we're thinking about building that single family dwelling with a dual purpose in mind, which is to begin as a common areas for, you know, meditation and gathering and dining, etc. And then when we outgrow it, we'll build the community center. We'll have more people to be able to afford the larger building. And the big green in the area doesn't render very well in this program, but that's the garden. And I would say it's not completely designed yet by a long shot, but the idea is that we're living on, you know, with and on the garden. So it's a very conscious effort to grow food, get the food on the table in the kitchen, and we expect to have 2 or 3 meals most days come out of the common area. So that's a pattern of living we did in Hawaii, and it actually has a lot to recommend it. People love working in the garden and helping out. People love cooking occasionally. And so we have a person to run the garden, and people can come in and you know, help or be supported in creating their own meal with help from the kitchen staff. A couple of pickleball courts, and then the barn, the agricultural building. What's not shown, oh, you can see it. The very bottom right is a greenhouse. So you can just see the roof there, yes. So we can go ahead and play this through and let it spin around. But I'll keep talking. One beautiful thing about this design is you could really live here without a car. And we would encourage people to do so. There will be a car share program, so there's that. And then there's also right on Elizabeth Street, which is just south of us, there is a bus line that's going to be upgraded in the next several years to what they call the Max line in Fort Collins, which is to say it's a bus every 15 or 20 minutes. So it's very practical. having a bus come by like that. There's also groceries about a half a mile away. We aren't really far from everything. Okay, so now I want you to stop for a moment here. Now you can really see the community center. One of my favorite things about the community center is the upstairs, right where you're pointing now, is a flat roof deck. And we imagine using that for morning meditation and yoga, watching sunsets. There's just a really dynamic community space there, which I think will be very, very nice. And then you can see the temple, which is attached under the same roof to the left there. There's a little kids' play area there. And you also have a gazebo there for gathering adjacent to it. Of course, the big garden and paved walkable trails all around. One of the ways we've conceived the buildings is that we are making all the downstairs residences wheelchair accessible and age in place friendly. So aging here would be, a much different experience than in your normal single family dwelling that's up in the air and all the access problems you have. Okay, Terry, go ahead. You can play it on.
Can I just say one thing? This
Sure.
is our plan. None of this is built yet. And we're working with the city to be allowed to do this. And then it's also within the city limits. So there's neighbors all the way around. The green outside is neighborhoods here in Fort Collins.
Well, and actually the green here is more Polestar buildings, and we'll look at that in the aerial photos. But yes, thanks for mentioning that.
Towards the north.
Yes. Oh, good point. We'll look at that in the aerial photos. Amazing what they can do with these things these days. 3D. All right. So that is that. Yes, now let's look at a few drone shots.
So that's the existing garden right there.
And the field we're looking at here is approximately where that garden will be, the one we saw in the virtual tour. We're looking right at it. And you can see, as Ann said, in the distance there's more housing, which is our neighbors.
And that's where Ann and Michael live right now, in those condo complexes right there.
And this is existing at Polestar. This is where we hold our events. We put this, we call it the Temple of Trees. We put up this little pavilion, which the frame was donated to us. So we have a little place to gather. We have meditations there. We have kirtans there, and potlucks. And now you get to see the beautiful Front Range. And most houses will have this view, actually, of the Front Range. It's really, really quite stunning.
And right over this ridge right here is Horsetooth Reservoir. So we're very, very close to the reservoir.
And the beyond the pine trees right here, the green, the additional green is all part of the development. Yeah.
That's right.
So I think I'm going to skip to another one.
That's just
One thing you can't see real clearly here is that along the south and western border of our property, for quite a distance, is the Pleasant Valley Water Canal. And it's a water company. It's basically a ditch of flowing water between May and October, and we have purchased a share of that water. It's a great shot here, you can see. If you know the site plan at all, we're looking north. The village garden is bottom left, and you can see out to the north, the road there. That's where the single family are. Yeah, back up just a second. Yeah, so, and pause for a moment. So the top right of your screen, yeah, or center of the screen right there, that's Orchard Street. And all the single family dwellings, if you're familiar with the site plan, go on Orchard Street. And then moving south, there's a large, what's called a detention pond, which is basically a way to detain water so it doesn't flood your home. Most of these houses in our neighborhood are in the flood zone, the 100-year flood zone, unfortunately. Ours will not be, at significant cost, of course, and we will actually improve the neighbors' chances of remaining out of the floods as well. So we will make an improvement by putting in our detention pond for the whole neighborhood. But none of our buildings will be in the 100-year floodplain.
And Fort Collins is this way.
Yeah, Ann was saying it's raw land. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like that picture yet. But we are, as she was saying, we're in what's called the entitlement process with the city, which is very technical and grueling, really. We've been at it 2+ years. We're on our 4th preliminary plan. It's an iterative process, and we are very close. We are now penciled in for a November public hearing, and that's me mowing the lawn over there.
Michael,
So,
Doug
yeah.
has a question.
Sure.
He says, what priority of water rights do you have?
Well, that's a good question. We're in the city limits, so the potable water is provided by the city. So that is not an issue. As I've run across other developers, that was the first thing they asked. Do you have your potable water rights? Which we do, and so that we're part of the city's water system for potable water. But it's a little bit unconscionable to do the kind of farming and gardening we want to do at Polestar without owning our own irrigation water. And so we have what's called a half share, and it's worth 19.5 acre feet between May and October. And it's never gone dry yet. Not to say it couldn't happen. It would mean the Poudre River would have to go dry, and hard to say what that would mean in terms of what the pecking order is. But we do. I don't really know the answer to that, because when push comes to shove, I think what they do is they choke everybody down a certain amount. But that's a good question. I don't know the answer, actually. I should find
And
it.
he's also asking, what about ag rights? Is that what you mean, Doug? Agriculture?
Yeah.
Let me just unmute so we're not doing chit chat on that.
Sure.
So Colorado water rights are kind of a strange thing. The highest priority rights are agriculture and mining. Municipalities have a lower priority, but
Whoops.
Oh, I lost
they
him.
usually.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit.
Pure
Sorry.
water rights.
Try again.
We try again. You cut out a little bit there.
Okay, sorry, I may not have the best connections. Colorado's water rights system has historic water rights that depend on what the original use was back from territorial times forward. So the highest 2 categories are mining and agriculture. Municipalities are way down the list. Typically what they do, and Fort Collins has done this, is they buy up agricultural or mining rights. So I would imagine these are agricultural rights. That was just kind of my guess.
That is
because
correct. That is
now
correct. In
you would
fact,
probably have pretty good ability to have that. And also you can sell the rights if you don't need everything for the farm. That can become a very nice and lucrative income source for the project.
the first thing the city said to us was, "Can we buy your water rights?" So yes, you're right about that. And we said, of course, no. Or really, my question was, why would I want to do that? And they
And city,
did not have a good answer. But that's good to know, and that does make sense to me that it is an agricultural use, and that is something we should have very strong rights with. And so yeah, good to know. It is a huge topic in Colorado and everywhere else these days, of course, too. Any other questions or comments? I'll tell you a little bit about the entitlement process. The so part of what has taken so long, we really didn't expect to be at this this long, and nobody else expected it either. I mean, it's not untypical that developments can run into all kinds of hurdles, but we have solved so many problems. But one of the reasons ours has been particularly complex is that one of our parcels, the Happy Heart Farm parcel, the first 10 acres to the east, has a condition with that parcel that it is part of the regional water drainage plan. And so in order for us to complete our subdivision, the city had to spend time and money on figuring out, because it doesn't have its regional plan yet, and it doesn't know, it's not completed, and it doesn't know how we fit into it. So they had to do all this work in order, and that right there was 2 months. There was like 2 months where we just sat there twiddling our thumbs, where they were doing all this computation about the whole region, and then finally, when they got us the data, they have two main programs that do all these computations, and they did not match. So our planners were like, "What?" They didn't know what to do. So anyway, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the kind of thing. So this, and then months go by, and then they're understaffed, and they're and then we've had there's like 12 different divisions that have input on the subdivision, and over the course of it taking so long, the department heads change. So we're on our third iteration, and things they could have told us easily on the first or second, they're now making up on the third, or that's the way it feels anyway. So
Michael, Jan had a question. Do you still have a question, Jan?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sort of not. This seems like this is going to take a couple of years before there's people being able to live in spaces there in the community. What is the community? What's the status of what kind of community is there now? Like if you wanted to come and rent there or something like that while this is being done. I ask because I'm thinking about selling my house and trying to relocate somewhere.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, what kind of, like, is there a devotee community there? Do you guys meet regularly for like meditation circle or groups?
Yeah, good question. And the answer is yes. About 7 or 8 of us who had been in Hawaii landed here, and we're all renting in various places, a handful of us right next to the property. And then more people are coming all the time. Another couple is moving from California. They're landing next weekend. And a lot of people are asking that question. And right now we have a group meditation and a little satsang afterwards, sort of discussion of a spiritual topic. We have a Wednesday night kirtan, and which is like sacred music for those of you who don't know, chanting and sacred music, and a potluck on the land. We're just about to move that indoors soon.
Which is
then-
hard because we don't have a facility, you know, it's hard to do it all with no place.
So for the summer, we've been outdoors. We mostly in that pavilion you saw the picture of, and we're just gonna start wrapping that up. But we have a really nice connection with the Unity Church that's nearby, and there's several other venues we use from time to time. So to answer your question, there is a community here. You know, the tribe is gathering, so to speak, to get
Right.
the energy going. You know.
Where could I get more information about like recommendations of places that you might want to rent, or just from people's personal experience of being there?
You can email me, Jan, and I can sort of guide you a little bit.
All right.
Um, should I just tell you my email?
Sure.
write it down?
Do you have it on the site
Yeah, you
anywhere?
can put it in the chat.
I can put it in the
Well, you can
chat.
tell me too.
All right, it's Ann, ANN, at polestargardens.org.
Okay.
And also, Jan, a lot of people just come here for a week or a long weekend or whatever they can swing and get an Airbnb and just, you know, check out. Then they have a chance to sort of tune into Fort Collins and all that. Just a couple weekends ago, we had our annual family camp up in the mountains. So we do a long weekend of just kind of nothing but fun, you know, camping and playing and so we had about 50 people involved in that, and a whole bunch of them came from various places and had never been to Polestar. So it was a really fun weekend, and then they would stay after a little bit and check out, you know, things and come to some of the weekly events we have here. So coming for a visit is a good way to
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking, you know, maybe a year or 2
Yeah,
years.
no, that could be good timing. And just on that point, my goal is to have people living there. By people, I mean Ann and I and others, by the end of next year. We hope to break ground by spring, summer next year, and very possibly we could be living there by the end of next year. So we're, you know, it is going to be a process, and it's a big project, but
Can I ask another question?
sure.
So what is the first housing that will be built? Like I'm interested in something simple, you know, like small square footage, independent unit, but I don't know. Also, I was looking at your plan and I don't know it seemed like there were some like common, almost like an apartment complex or something, like single rooms or something with a common living area. But what would be the first type of living spaces on a small scale that would be available?
That's a great question. And Terry, why don't you bring up the site plan and I'll show him on there because you'll understand the process a little bit. So basically the goal is to put in the infrastructure, which is what they call horizontal development, the roads, the water, all that, the sidewalks. And the hope is to spend as little money on that to get as many buildings in process as you go, just to, conserve resources and cash flow and all that. So, can you pull that up, Terry?
Yeah, I just clicked on it. I think it's just taking a minute.
Oh, it does take a minute to load, yeah. So the idea would be we sort of have this phasing or what we call a sequence of building that would include 3 different types of housing, everything from the apartments to the townhomes to the single family. And we would limit the amount of infrastructure we put in to get those 3 types going. And so to answer your question, there are units. We do not have any designed group homes. That's not to say we couldn't do them, but we would take the intention of a smaller group of people to say, hey, we want to do this, like we 3 parties want to go in and build a house together and figure that out. And so it's certainly a possibility that people could do a group home.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's not particularly my interest. I just thought that that was maybe, I was perhaps mistaken. I thought that that would be like a small scale offering. I would like a micro home or
That's
something.
kind of what we have. Everything for 450 square feet, and it's a standalone condo. You can, it's its own separate unit, and then
There are a lot of small units.
there are a lot of small units. Yeah.
What would
And
be
if
the
you look out-
economics of the small unit, like this 450 square feet? I saw on your website that you had some metric to calculate that, but like just
Thanks,
So-
Terry. Yes, no, that's a great question, and you probably saw that we actually had prices down at one point, and we pulled them all off because it's such a moving target.
yeah,
And the I had this conversation with uh, Anna last week because we do have on the website somewhere $300 to $400 a square foot, and we are certainly shooting for that. The problem is that formula is particularly ineffective for a tiny place because in a small unit, you still have a kitchen, you still have a bathroom, you still have a unit with all its own individual permitting and etc. But all the cheaper parts of the building, bedrooms, more, living rooms that don't have all those expensive fixtures that go with kitchens and bathrooms, aren't generally there in a tiny place. So the formula doesn't work very well. So this is a question we are working hard to answer because everybody needs to know the answer to this, including us. And our goal is to be able to answer this by November, December. And at that point, we're going to start converting some of the loans. People are making loans to the nonprofit, but soon after that, we should be able to start converting the loans to investment, and we need to know these numbers. So there's even more to that story I won't go into now, but we have a, I'll mention it briefly. We have an offsite construction company pitching us right now, and if it's half as good as it seems to be, it's an amazing thing and could really help us control costs. So that's a big ray of hope for us right now. Could reduce costs and have a really good housing product. So we're working on that right now.
So Michael, that's a modular building offsite.
Yes, in this case, it's a panelized system.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and when we started this project, and for those of you who don't know, Ann and I have been in the building business our whole lives. We started, in our late teens and early 20s. We were doing building, and have been licensed general contractors in several states. So we built many hundreds of houses in our careers, and we've always had an interest in affordable housing. And when we started this project, I was sure we were going to do it mostly offsite and prefab, and we did a lot of research at the beginning, and we couldn't find it. We couldn't find the thing that made sense, and we kind of gave it up. We were looking at stick framing everything until just the last 6 weeks. We had this company pitch us, and they're in Utah. And they have a brand new factory, and it's sort of a new thing we're checking out. I've got my fingers crossed it's going to work out because it could really change our approach to building and be a lot more efficient and better in a lot of ways. So one thing I'll mention briefly is that Terry, with your cursor, we just show the village center, and the garden is down here, and the housing on the green there, on the village green there, we have conceived to put that housing in a little different ownership model. Now, most of the units in all of Polestar Village, 144 units, are fee simple. So there's nothing complicated about it. That's how we Americans roll. You own your house, you sell your house, you give it to your kids, whatever. But in this case, we're going to take those units and put them into what's called a TIC, or a TIC, a tenants in common. And it's a well traveled model of collaborative ownership that makes a whole lot of sense in the context of intentional community. And without going into great detail, you basically own a part of the whole rather than an individual unit. However, if your if your percentage of that part of the whole is up to the right number, you can gain exclusive use of a unit, and basically it functions almost exactly like you own that unit. The big advantage is when it comes time to sell or move or whatever, you can just leave your ownership in the TIC and go travel for a year if you want to, and it's set up so that will be rented by the management and you will get the rental income. Or if you want to change units, you decide you want to get to a bigger unit or a smaller unit. Anything within the TIC, you would have that ability to be able to change. So there's a lot of advantages in flexibility and economics and etc. And I just thought I'd mention that. It's a deeper conversation, but I thought I'd at least get it on the table for people to think about.
Could we also point out the nature area along the ditch?
Oh, thank you. So
Right there,
that's
is that what you're talking about?
yeah, that's the ditch, and it has a 50-foot natural area habitat buffer along it, and which is really nice. In fact, we've seen deer, bear, bobcat along in that exact spot.
And there's a walking path that goes through it.
That's right, and the walking path goes along it.
And
then,
Elizabeth Street, where the bus line will be.
okay,
Yeah, right there.
Does it connect then? The walking path connects to the bus area on Elizabeth?
It will eventually.
Okay.
It won't yet, because right now Elizabeth Street has a large upgrade coming for it, which is very cool actually, because it's going to get the Max line. It's going to have a big traffic circle. It's going to have a raised bike lane, and right now there's a gap in the pedestrian access right where Elizabeth is. So you can't really bring people out there because there's no sidewalk there yet. But you can still get to Elizabeth. You just have to walk over a block and go that way. So it's not a big problem, but it over time it'll get better.
Michael, Doug is asking if you're aware of the limited cooperative association legal entities in Colorado. There are a couple of housing co-ops with this model. It allows classes of members and investors.
I am aware of it, and only not in great depth. The TIC is a model that I've had a much more extensive experience with, and we did look into it a little bit, but we did not plumb the depths of it, and we were mostly trying to keep everything fee simple. So I don't know if you've heard me say that phrase before, but the idea is that this is an intentional neighborhood. It implies a certain amount of autonomy, shared values, yes, but also individuality, and the TIC by design will just be a little part of that, because that'll be a higher level of cooperation, and it could have been a cooperative. Yeah, we haven't even, we've got our first draft of the TIC documents. We are still working on it. So
Michael, if you mentioned it, maybe you did already, but that quite a few people are moving to Fort Collins already and renting space
Or buying.
or buying,
That's right.
around the land. There's a lot of us that live around kind of the perimeter of the land and then throughout Fort Collins.
No, that's right. I always say, the garden here, we've had a community garden the last 2 years, and we have work days from time to time, and it's really a great community building thing. And I think when people actually live on the green, that is going to be the best kept garden in the state. Because it's really an ideal setup to have that with people living there and a dining hall, and it's really quite ideal.
Are the neighbors on the surrounding streets receptive to this project? Have you contacted them? And I was involved briefly in Olympia, Washington with a co-housing project, and I helped cook meals a couple of times before I moved here as a neighbor in the community, not living in co-housing. So is that going to be a possibility for our neighbors on the surrounding streets?
It sure is. It sure is. Polestar doesn't exist just for the residents of Polestar Village. It's an educational nonprofit with a mission that. Okay, thank you, Doug. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Doug?
So we are, the mission of Polestar Gardens transcends the spot we live on, and so we will have ongoing programs. We've always done youth programs. We'll have gardening programs. We'll have meditation programs. It'll be a educational center, but held in a community of like-minded people who also benefit from all its activities, and so yes, and we're, as far as we understand it, the neighbor, we're in pretty good shape with the neighbors. We had conversations with them all along the way. They provided input and we responded to it as best we could. So I think
There's a few that are worried about the additional traffic.
Oh, I would say they're all worried about
and they're all sad about losing the open space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I would be too.
Yeah.
But some of the neighbors are participating in our events, like I rent a little space that's right adjacent to the land, and my landlord's, he's a musician and he comes and plays at some of our events and they participate, and they just borrowed some of our chairs. And so we hope to have that,
Right.
really, I talk to a lot of the other neighbors because I'm right there because I walk on the land all of the time. So, we'll keep, nourishing and
Yeah.
develop these relationships.
Susan had a question.
Sure.
I was just going to comment that I live nearby here. I just moved here in May, and I walk 3 or 4 times a day out by the retention pond area, which is gorgeous. And I talk to people all the time in this area, and they are all of the opinion that it's going to be developed. They know that. There's no doubt in that this is a beautiful piece of land, and they're happy that the group that is Polestar is coming in to develop it because they feel attached to the spiritual nature of the vision of Polestar. And so I think that's what sustains the development here.
That will be good stewards of the land. And yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I think Bill Altos told me, because we did get a little grief in our first months here, and he said, well, that was before people knew you. So I think it is, I think it has dawned on people that yes, it is going to be developed, and we at least have a neighbor who cares about the neighborhood, and we want to live there. We aren't trying to just make a profit and get out of town. So I think, and time will tell on these things. We have every intention of being good neighbors. I think we'll be an asset to the community in the long run for sure.
And right, the city, did you mention the city and their goal of, is it carbon neutral by 2030? And so they're really
Yeah, the
excited
city
about
is
the
shooting.
project.
City is shooting for net zero energy by the year 2030, which is very ambitious, and and we are on the same page. So we're kind of in a conversation about collaborating on making Polestar Village somewhat of a test project where you could demonstrate emerging technologies like V2G and microgrid, and so that's all on the table right now, which is kind of fun.
And we've got some projects where we collaborate with some of the groups from CSU, and we're talking to some of the departments about hiring some interns, and so we're also have collaboration with the university.
Yes, in fact, the CSU has our first draft of design guidelines. So we've had several charrettes with them and several meetings, and they have their first draft, and we're going to see it on Wednesday and have our first group meeting. The architects will be there, and yeah, it should be fun.
We've got about a little under 10 minutes if anybody has any other questions.
Yeah,
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
It's
fire away.
Rajni. So, I mean, I'm not sure that, I think you said 144 units will be available.
Yep.
Is that right? So what will be your process for, let's say you have 500 people that are interested in joining your community? Do you gonna have some kind of process for?
We sure do. And here's as far as we've gotten with it. People are lending money to the nonprofit right now. That's how we're doing the development. So if you're interested in investing, we can send you all the paperwork, and you make a contribution now, and it's just rendered as a 4-year loan to the nonprofit at 4% interest. So because we're still in the entitlement stage, we don't have anything to sell outright yet. But loaning money to a nonprofit is a relatively simple matter for most states. And we do have to do a little bit of paperwork depending on the state to check all the securities laws boxes. So we have 25 people already who have loaned anywhere from 20,000 to 250,000 to Polestar Gardens, the nonprofit, and we are using that money to do the pre-development. Now, anybody who is in that loan category can convert their loan as soon as we have the lots and the building products into an investment.
And they'll have priority over. Yeah.
That's right. And so basically, those people who have done the loan will all have first shot at all the units. And depending on how much they put in and how long they put it in for, they will have seniority. It may be that it's not going to be a big issue for that group because there's 144 units, and we'll probably end up with about 35 investors, I would guess. We do need more investment to get through the entitlement process. So when we've got a bunch of people, who are thinking about it and getting ready to invest. So
and that loan, if you do want to go ahead and buy a lot when they become officially buyable, converts to 6% instead of 4%. So there's a benefit to doing that to both the investor and to Polestar.
Exactly. And so that was the way we made the queue. But then you ask a good question. Once that's done, then what happens? It's we haven't really thought that through much, but it is going to be open market, So it is it is going to be on the market.
essentially first come, first serve. Is that what you mean
I
by
think
open market?
pretty much. I
Yeah.
don't know any other way
I-
you could really do it.
I guess you assume that people will self-select because they wouldn't, if they were not interested in living in community, they wouldn't be buying there. So,
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If the values don't do anything for you, your
Yeah.
fees in part are going to support that. So why not go somewhere else?
Yeah.
There's lots of other
And there will be an HOA, and an HOA fees, and there will be also fees to the nonprofit, because the nonprofit's gonna own all the common areas there around the green. So there'll be, and that'll be a little self-selecting also. Yeah,
So you mean everybody of the 144 will be contributing to the HOA for the nonprofit?
right, to the HOA and to participating in the common areas with the nonprofit. Yep. Two different things.
Okay, two different fees that will be
Well,
like,
and that is kind of true, but actually the HOA will have a contract. It'll actually be folded into one, but we're talking technicalities here. And there's someone in the waiting room. Are they registered? Oh, they might have got the time wrong.
Yeah.
I bet they got the time wrong. Oh, that's Vikram. Is that yeah. So
my other question was, I'm actually going to Colorado. I'm probably leaving here about the 1st, and I'll probably be heading to the Boulder, Denver area. So it would make sense if I was going to visit to come there first. Is that time frame? Is there anything going on, or is there any,
What was the time frame again?
like maybe October 1st? I mean, I'm a little bit flexible. It could be the 2nd.
no,
Or
if you come
October.
by, you should definitely. If you're in the neighborhood, you should come by. We'll definitely give you a land tour, and depending on the day of the week, that is, there'll be some. There might be
The
something
1st
happening.
is a Sunday.
Okay. The
We
first
have a calendar on the website. So it
Right,
has all of our events, and it'll change because right now we're changing some summer to winter. So, you'll just know, but you can reach out to any of us as well.
Well, that was my next question. Who would I reach out to arrange, a meetup?
Do you want me to, you can reach out to me. It's Terry@polestargardens.net, and then I'll connect you. I'll connect you with Mike and whoever.
.org.
.org. Thank you, Anne.
TERRY, right?
TERRY @polestargardens.net. You can also connect with us through the website. We also have an electronic newsletter, so you can sign up through the website.
PolestarGardens.org. Yeah.
.org. Did I say .net again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
it.
Thank you.
One of my multiple email addresses.
Yes. All right. Well, any final thoughts or questions? Really nice to meet you all. And Jan, thanks for joining us from Vermont. That's pretty awesome.
Nice to
And-
meet everyone, and it's been very informative. And is there a point in you do this every third Sunday? Is there a point in doing it again?
If you want, it is. We do cover different things, and I forgot to say at the beginning, we do 2 meetings on Sunday. The first one is for people who've never been to a meeting, just so we can sort of start at the beginning, watch the video, get the idea from the beginning. So we don't have all those basic questions at our ongoing monthly meeting, which is in an hour and a half from now.
Okay.
So it might be better to come to the other meeting, which is people who have been coming for a while. And we usually have a guest speaker. Today we have somebody talking about the energy plan at Polestar. And so anybody, I meant to say this at the beginning, anybody is welcome to come to that meeting. And today's meeting is at 4:30. It's a different
Yeah, we do this meeting and then we do that meeting. And this meeting is kind of basically the same. People will ask different
Okay.
questions, so sometimes we cover, but we show the same things. But the community meeting, we usually have a topic that, like Michael said, it's energy, we'll have, but it's featured around the community. So that probably might be something you want to do ongoing. Yeah, and then we do have an equinox celebration coming up. That's also on the calendar, the 23rd, 24th. We're going to do a panel discussion on that Sunday where we're going to have different folks that are involved, do a panel. We're going to do a music festival on Saturday night of that weekend, and then a land tour that Saturday morning. I know you're not here locally, but for anybody that's here close, we have multiple things.
And the panel discussion will be Zoomed also.
Hopefully.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm on your mailing list, so I'll be
great.
notified about these things. And is this second meeting, is that on the calendar? So you have to get a Zoom link for that, right?
It's on the calendar. You could go get it right now. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll probably pass tonight, but
Yeah, it's
next-
grueling.
Next
Think of how we feel.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All
We
right.
love Zoom.
Yeah, great
Jan-
to see you all, and have
Oh.
a great rest of your Sunday. Nancy, nice to see your face.
Anna, did you have a question?
Oh,
Or
I
you
was just gonna tell Jan, I listened last month and I'm listening today because I wanted to hear it a second time after looking at the website more closely and talking with Michael and asking questions. And then I'm planning to participate in the 4:30 Mountain Time call today.
Great.
People do ask different questions and
Right.
it's really nice. Yeah.
Well, and you had 28 people on the August call.
Yeah, that was pre-football season. Yeah.
That was a big group.
Everybody's watching football. We might have to change our day. All right. Oh, Vikram, there you are. Hello. Oh, good to see you. Oh,
Okay,
you are muted.
do you
All
want to?
right.
Let you guys go. Take care, and we'll see some of you at 4:30 again.
Thanks.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Take care.